in that, though. You do something we don't like and we're going to take your money away. Well, that's from the Trump playbook.
Let them raise their own money.
Yeah, but
it's their fault. I mean, why should we fund these bodies that are anti-free speech?
But
on taxpayers,
the university is not. The student union, I agree, have made, in my personal view, have made a mistake in not bringing Sarah in.
But the university's being pathetic in trying to deny responsibility. The rooms will be university rooms. The funding that goes to the student union goes via the... I mean, it's just...
back in the day, far too long ago than I wish to remember, I was a student union president. I've been in this situation, and how you describe it, the union does its own thing across the country.
But the Vice-Chancellor should have come out, in my view, publicly apologised. And the other thing I said to him today... should have made a room. Yep. And I also said, he said he's going to launch an investigation into how this happened. I suggested that the person responsible was suspended until the investigation was completed, and he was more concerned about the welfare of that person.
What you just saw there is exactly what's gone wrong with our universities. An elected politician publicly branded racist, homophobic and transphobic, not after a debate, not after evidence, but before she even stepped into the room. No questions, no challenge, no discussion, just labels and a ban. That isn't democracy, and it certainly isn't education. Universities are supposed to be places where ideas are tested, not people erased. But instead of debate, they chose silence. And if this is happening on campuses that are legally required to protect free speech, you can imagine how bad it's getting everywhere else. If you care about open debate and people actually being allowed to speak, hit like and subscribe, because this story only gets worse from here.
So, Sarah, what exactly happened?
So, and you've hit the nail on the head. Bangor University have not met their legal obligation under the Education Act of 1986 that they should be holding platforms for free speech in this democracy that we are meant to be living in. I asked Bangor Debate, I actually offered my services. I clearly naively thought that they would welcome a politician coming to their debating society to do exactly that, debate with the debating society. But no, it seems that Bangor University's debating society only wishes to debate people who have the same views as them. But actually, they haven't bothered to even find out what my views are. They have branded me racist, homophobic and transphobic with no damaging terms. I don't read my Twitter for the probably death threats that I've got on there. It's a safety concern, but also they have not met their legal obligation to hold free speech in our universities. And one more point, if I may. What is this brainwashing doing to our young, brilliant minds? So people at university, for example, and other young people, but they're being brainwashed with one train of thought only, and they're not being taught to debate, to stand up for their opinions, to listen to new opinions and other ideas. That's very, very damaging for the future of the country.
And it does seem that the people who get stopped tend to be on the right, not on the left. You don't often hear about deplatforming of the left. Don't universities have a duty to make sure that their facilities are proper?
Yeah, and I'm a bit disappointed with the student union because I think that they've missed a chance. I think you shouldn't ban Sarah or reform because of their politics, because now they can't ask her questions about the reform candidate who took 40,000 grand of Russian money.
Absolutely right.
Have you got all your facts written down there, Kevin?
But there's so many, Sarah. There's so many. They can't ask her about the racial slurs against Rishi Sunak.
I'd like to talk about the child sexual abuse of so many people in the affiliated with the Labour Party.
This is why we've got you on.
I know.
And why we've got Sarah.
And this is exactly about debate, which they will not do.
This is the lost opportunity because now the students at Bangor can't hold Sarah to account and ask her about all these corruption issues with reform, the local councils, the candidates and the racism.
What about Peter Mandelson and your Prime Minister currently? I'd like to discuss that.
Bangor are missing out on Sarah.
Because in fact, this afternoon, you might not have it in your notes there, but this afternoon I had a meeting with the Vice-Chancellor of Bangor University and pointed out to him that it is his legal obligation to make sure that the societies that operate within the university stick to a code of conduct, which allows, they represent the university, allows free speech. But that debating society, in the name of Bangor University, put that statement out. about brandishing an elected member of parliament as those three vile terms: racist, transphobic and homophobic, with no evidence, and they will not publicly apologise.
A different kettle of fish, that we're allowed to be rude about politicians. I don't think that's
You should see my Twitter feed after coming on here. You know,
I don't think that's a problem.
Well,
I think deplatforming is a problem, but I'm afraid politicians just have to be thick-skinned.
Can I
And if
just
people
add,
rude to us,
though,
that's just tough.
Can I just add, there was a young chap, Jack Anderton, who was going to join me in that debate. He is only 25. He's not an elected politician, and he was also called these vile names. Now, he's a young man with no reason whatsoever. He went to Bangor University and said, Sarah Pochin and I would like to come and hold a debate, a Q&A with your students. And we were told that we were not welcome. But this is something part of a much bigger thing now, and that is not allowing free speech in our society.
The more you listen to this exchange, the clearer the pattern becomes. Nobody actually wants to argue with her. Nobody wants to challenge her policies or pin her down with tough questions, because that would require confidence in their own ideas. Instead, they reach for the laziest weapon possible: labels. Call someone racist, call them dangerous, call them extreme, and suddenly you don't have to debate them at all. It's intellectual cowardice dressed up as morality. And the irony is almost painful. By banning her, the students didn't protect themselves, they cheated themselves. They lost the very opportunity universities are meant to provide. They could have questioned her, grilled her, exposed her, even embarrassed her live on stage. That's what debate is for. But they didn't want risk. They wanted comfort. They wanted an echo chamber where everyone claps for the same opinions and nobody ever feels challenged. That's not education, that's indoctrination. If young adults leave university never having their beliefs properly tested, never having to defend what they think, then what exactly are we paying for? Taxpayers are funding institutions that are supposed to champion free speech, yet the moment someone controversial turns up, the doors get locked. When feelings matter more than facts and disagreement is treated like danger, the entire purpose of higher education collapses. And what you're watching here isn't an isolated mistake, it's a culture that's spreading fast.
Students have always been, would you agree, quite radical. You know, in the old days, they used to sit in, you had May 68.
Let's debate it, Kevin.
Yeah.
Let's debate.
But, I mean, in this instance, I think blaming Bangor, I mean, I was told this afternoon, which you might take issue with, that didn't he threaten to remove 30 million quid of government funding from the uni?
So can I just say...
Well, if you're getting government money, taxpayers' money, you ought to promote freedom of speech.
But as a point of detail, the universities are almost never responsible for student unions.
That's
They've got their
not
own
true.
constitution.
That's not true, Kevin. The final legal obligation lies with the university to control all of its societies. And the point that Zia Youssef was quite rightly making was that a third of the people in this country now support reform. They are hard-working taxpayers. Yes, that's what this... Kevin, let me finish my point.
Of course.
They're hard-working, tax-paying British citizens that support reform. Their money is paying £287,000 a year to the Vice-Chancellor and supporting the university with £30 million. Zia Youssef was making quite the right point that if you do not operate as an open, democratic organisation, why should British taxpayers support you?
It's in that, though. You do something we don't like and we're going to take your money away. That's from the Trump playbook.
Let them raise their own money.
Yeah, but you know...
It's their fault. I mean, why should we fund these bodies that are anti-free speech?
But
on taxpayers,
the university
a third
is
of
not.
whom now
The
want to vote for
student
reform.
union, I agree, have made, in my personal view, have made a mistake in not bringing Sarah in.
Kevin
But
agrees with me.
the university is being pathetic in trying to deny responsibility. The rooms will be university rooms. The funding that goes to the student union goes to...
guys,
I mean, it's just...
back in the day, far too long ago than I wish to remember, I was a student union president. I've been in this situation, and how you describe it, the union does its own thing across the country.
But the Vice-Chancellor should have come out, in my view, publicly apologised. And the other thing I said to him today... Should have made a room.
Yep.
And I also said, he said he's going to launch an investigation into how this happened. I suggested that the person responsible was suspended until the investigation was completed, and he was more concerned about the welfare of that person.
I suspect
Well, there we go. We're going to have to finish. We've got a spokesman from Bangor University. The song we had earlier was also used as an advert for Anchor Butter. which may amuse viewers. Anyway, the social media post was issued by a student society, not by Bangor University. Student societies are created and run by students through the Independent Students' Union. The views expressed by societies and their own and do not reflect university policy. Bangor University remains politically neutral and supports freedom of speech, welcoming debate from across the political spectrum, which is obviously untrue, because otherwise they'd have made sure that Sarah could have gone there.
This wasn't just an interview, and it wasn't just one student society making a bad call. This is a pattern, and you've probably seen it again and again. Someone with the wrong politics gets invited, activists complain, accusations start flying, and instead of defending open debate, the institution backs down. Every single time. You saw it happen here. You heard the excuses. You felt the hesitation. Nobody actually stood up and said, yes, we believe in free speech and we're going to defend it. Because it's easier to fold than to fight. And that's exactly why trust is gone. People are sick of being told universities are neutral while they quietly pick sides, sick of being told debate matters while speakers get banned before they open their mouths, sick of taxpayer-funded institutions acting like private clubs that only allow one approved opinion. If a university can't even host a basic political discussion without panicking, then what confidence should anyone have in the people running it? This is how democracies weaken, not with dramatic censorship, but with small, cowardly decisions that slowly shut certain voices out. Today it's someone you disagree with. Tomorrow it could be someone you support. And by then it's too late. So ask yourself honestly, is this incompetence or is it cowardice? And would you really trust people like this to shape the next generation? If you're tired of this culture of silencing instead of debating, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell, because someone has to keep calling this out.